everyone, it's me. I'm back again. Some of the YouTube viewers wanted me to do a video on temptations, how I deal with my temptations. So I would just want to say there are three things that I have done basically. The first thing is to try to avoid the temptation, not put myself in that situation. And I realize that a lot of you people out there may not be in that position to get yourself out of that temptation environment, because you may have family, kids to make food for, or a spouse to cook for, and things like that. Whereas I don't have that kind of situation where I need to be around food. If I don't want to be around food, I don't have to be around food. So my situation's a bit different than maybe some of you out there, where you have to be around food all the time because of family situations and circumstances. But there are times where I have found myself being around food, and in the beginning especially, there would be food there and I couldn't eat it, and I was just became kind of desperate. I think I did a video on that, but I became kind of desperate, like, oh my God, I'm never going to get to eat food, and there's food here, and why am I doing this to myself, and is it worth it all, and why are we not going to eat food? And it's like your brain doesn't think clearly, and you're starting to question everything you're doing, and then those are times where you could give in to temptation, thinking, well, forget this, I'm just going to eat. So what I have done in those situations is I would just kind of tell myself it's temporary, that I will be able to eat sometime in the future, but right now I'm not going to eat, and just kind of try to remove myself from the situation. And then the next day do a dry fast, and I have done that, and the dry fast really kind of cools me off and gets me back to my normal way of thinking. So I did a 24-hour dry fast. I mean, I would do a 24-hour dry fast to just kind of get back into my usual way of thinking. Otherwise, my mind is stressed out, and I'm thinking, why am I doing this? And it's not worth it, and just eat, and everyone's eating, and those kinds of things. So anyways, so that's one of the things I've done, is remove myself from those kind of situations. And then if I cannot, then just tell myself it's temporary, and then do a dry fast the next day, and just kind of get grounded again. So that's number one thing I did. And number two is if I'm around food, I think I did a video on this. If I'm around food and I just can't help it, I have this temptation. Like, one of my temptations used to be pizza, right? So I'd go by and there'd be a pizza parlor or some smell of pizza, and I just go, oh my God, I want some pizza. So what I would do is I would taste it. So I think I did a video on that earlier, but what I would do is I would taste food. So I would put it in my mouth, taste it, and spit it out. Of course, I wouldn't do that in restaurants, because people would really think there's something wrong with me if I order the food and start spitting it out. So what I would do is I'll get it to go or something, and then I would eat it, and in the luxury of my own place, I would eat it and then just spit it out. So that's what I would do, just to get the taste of food and not ingest it. So I'm still sticking with no eating solid food, so I'm just tasting it and spitting out. So that's one way I conquer the temptations of food, because those food temptations, I think in my third month, was really, really, really strong. I mean, it was so strong that I'd be driving by and I'd see restaurants, and I was like, I wonder what kind of food they serve there. That looks like a Chinese place. I wonder, that looks like, I would think about all the kinds of food that they're serving and how tasty it would be, and if they have good reviews. And I'd be looking on my app and saying, okay, what restaurants are close by, and okay, what kind of food are they serving? All kinds of stuff like that, all kinds of crazy things like that. But so one way I conquered that is by just tasting and spitting out, and I no longer do that. I don't have the desire to really taste the food. I don't know. I did, and I did taste it, and I remember at home I would have this craving for pizza and then for popcorn. So I would have some popcorn, and then if I felt like I wanted to eat or do something, then I would just pop some popcorn and put it in my mouth, and and then spit it out, and that's kind of satisfied me. And that was one way I would conquer my temptation, is just to stick to the fact that I'm not going to have solid food, but I gave myself permission to taste it, and that's what I did. And it kind of helped me through that. So that for that 1 month I was having all those cravings, but then after that I stopped having all these food cravings. So it worked. So that's one thing I did, is taste it and not ingest it. Okay, another thing that I have recently done when I have food cravings or temptations or some emotional things going on with me, I was in Rishikesh, India for advanced teacher training course and a meditation teacher training course. So over there was a woman in the course that they would give yogurt, like really runny yogurt, and she would take the yogurt and put honey in it, and she'd have it. And I was like, oh, what is she doing? She's putting honey in her yogurt and having it. And she's like, yeah. And I asked her about it. She goes, yeah, it's really good. It's like a dessert. And I was like, huh, okay. I mean, I was off dairy and not having dairy, but I was like, this runny yogurt is liquid. So I went and did what she did, and it was really tasty. So what I do every now and then, if I really get a craving for something, is that I have a go-to food, like go-to a liquid kind of food that you can go to if you feel like having something. It's like, oh, I can't have that, but I like that, and I'm gonna have that. So say, for example, you have cravings for pizza. It's like, I can't have that, but I can have that yogurt with honey in it, right? So have a go-to food that you go to. That's kind of what I have done is, while I was in Rishikesh, that was my go-to food. So yeah, that's what I did. And so when I was at one of the teacher training, the meditation teacher training place, for lunchtime, they would really not have anything liquid for me to drink. And so they would have this runny yogurt. And so I was like, okay, well, you know what? I learned from the other place that I can put honey, is I asked them for honey, and then I would have that for my first meal of the day. Would be honey and yogurt, the runny yogurt. So it was like a liquid, and I would just eat it with a spoon. So anyways, so that was my go-to food. So I think that's helped me through a lot of cravings and things that I may have, that okay, I can't have that, but hey, you know what, I can have something equally tasty. And so find something that's really tasty, maybe a certain type of smoothie, or something that's still liquid, but that's something that's really tasty for you, that you really like. And so that's what I did. So maybe it might work for you. So anyway, so that's one. Those are the three things I've done, is to avoid the temptation. Number one is avoid the temptation, and number two is if you cannot avoid it, then you can taste it. And then number three is that if you cannot taste it, and you don't want to taste it, but you really kind of want to, maybe you're in public or something, maybe you can get your go-to food, whatever you can go to that you really like, that's liquid, that you can still maintain that liquid kind of, no solid food diet, and just go to the liquid. And I feel like, so those are these phases that we go through. So I think the phase that I went through was the tasting food. Now it's like the go-to food, go-to liquid, and things like that. So I think that's also a phase that you go through, and then you kind of change. And so I'm just kind of acknowledging all the different phases I'm going through. And so anyways, that's how I'm dealing with my temptations. And I have found out that, like slowly, as you continue on with this, your temptations go away, and you actually don't really have such strong temptations. So so far that's been the case. It's been 5 months into my journey, and so I feel that my temptations have gone down, and they're not as strong. And so I'm hoping that as time goes on, there'll be less and less. So anyways, that is my journey, and I hope you guys found that useful. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.